Hello, I'm Kelly Wilde, tranny tragic from Barnet in Hertfordshire, about 10 miles north of London. Now, why would I refer to myself as a tranny tragic? Well, it has to do with the fact that I'm 79 years old. I'm the oldest transvestite in the village, and at 79, it's difficult to look glamorous or sexy. And so I make do with t-shirt, bra, little tennis skirt, sissy knickers, little bit of bling here and there. That'll do me. Right now I'm domiciled, ooh, big word for me, domiciled in Sydney, Australia. Not a bad place to be domiciled. Just recently we've had a controversy. How do you pronounce it? Controversy? I've always said controversy. Take your pick. Controversy about some bat and ball woman, a tennis player. I've forgotten the name now. Margaret someone or other. Not important. But she claims to be a Christian. Yes, one of these super duper you-beaut Christians. One of these Christians who is able to announce to the rest of the world how righteous she is compared to everybody else. She's opposed to, adultery and homosexuality and all the rest of it. Same as that rugby player whose name I've forgotten, and I can't even be bothered to Google him because he's so unimportant to me. Some moron who raised the roof about homosexuals and adulterers and liars. He's straight out of the book of Romans from the New Testament and Corinthians, word for word. These people, they make me sick because they cherry pick. They go for the little bits in the Bible that appeal to them and they ignore the bulk of it. Which Christian, name one, who insists in obeying God when God says that if your daughter is found not to bleed copiously on her wedding night, she must be dragged to the gates of the city and stoned to death. Do you believe that, Margaret? Are you out there? Are you going to have young girls and women dragged to the gates of the city and stoned to death? Of course not. You're going to disobey God, same as every Christian I've ever met in my life. What about women accused of adultery being poisoned until they admit that, oh yes, I'm an adulterer? Do you go along with that? What about when St. Paul says women should shut the fuck up and obey their husbands? Are you going to go along with that, Margaret? They are what is known as bigots. And yet, I've got mixed feelings about this idea of banning them because, to my way of thinking, freedom of speech, let them make complete fools of themselves. It doesn't bother me. In fact, I think they do more harm to their Christian religion than I could ever do. And I'm an extreme militant atheist. But these people inflict massive damage on their religion because they are such hypocrites. Let's take the bat and ball woman first. See, this bat and ball woman that all the fuss is about right now, she's a deacon or something, or a pastor. I don't know what they call themselves these days. She runs or co-runs or has something to do with her own church. And she claims to be super Christian. What a load of old bollocks. She's nothing like a super Christian. She's a bigot, a hypocrite. How do I know that? Because I have bothered to read the Bible. Have you ever met anyone in your life who's bothered to read the Bible? You'll meet dozens, maybe hundreds of people who claim to have read the Bible. But I studied it for 8 years. And I clearly remember in the Sermon on the Mount, the most important sermon this Jesus character ever gave, he forbade people, let alone preaching in the church, He forbade people to even pray in public. It was forbidden. Anyone who prays in public, according to Jesus, is like the hypocrites, and they've already had their reward. Don't expect another. Genuine believers should lock themselves in a closet, according to Jesus, and pray to thy Father in secret, in private. And yet this moron, this bat and ball woman, she helps run a church where she prays and encourages everybody else to pray, in direct opposition to what Jesus ordered. As for the rugby moron, he's got a great big tattoo on his right shoulder. I think it's right shoulder and right arm. I've got a little tattoo there that I had done when I was a deck boy in the Merchant Navy at about 16 years old. But he's an adult who claims to be a Christian, someone who follows and obeys God. God strictly forbids tattoos. He knew that, but his attitude was, fuck you, God, I want a tattoo because I want to look cool, super cool. You can go to hell, God, despite the fact that his God that he claims to worship forbids tattoos. Any kind of skin tattooing is forbidden by God. So he went ahead and disobeyed God. And then he claims, oh, I worship God, I'm a super Christian. He's also a multimillionaire, drives a Ferrari, or he used to, I don't know if he still does. He lives in Europe at the moment, probably driving a Lamborghini nowadays. All he's concerned about is money, 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 wealth. I don't know about the bat and ball woman, but I wouldn't mind betting she's quite wealthy. What did Jesus have to say about wealth? Well, he warned people that it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. You remember that. What is the attitude of the bat and ball woman and the rugby player to that? Fuck you, Jesus. I want wealth. I want fame. To hell with you. In that regard, I'm more of a Christian than they are because I've got no money. I drive a 1996 Toyota Camry. What is that? It's 24 years old. That's how wealthy I am. So I've got more chance of clambering through that eye of a needle than these two super Christians have. Oh dear. And something else I'd like to ask the rugby fuckhead. Are you gay? Chances are he'd say, no, I'm definitely heterosexual. Well, let's see now, what did Jesus have to say about that? Well, once again, in the Sermon on the Mount, he said that any man who has looked at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And the only way to avoid the fires of hell is to gouge out one eye and hack off one hand. Which hand? The offending hand. Go figure. Is he going to try and convince us that he's never masturbated in his life? And if the answer is, oh well, occasionally I have a little play, what does he fantasize about? Is he fantasizing about his Ferrari, his Lamborghini, a koala perhaps, or penguins, or the Harbour Bridge, the Opera House maybe? Or is it just possible, as a heterosexual man, while he's masturbating, he fantasizes about a sexy woman? Just possible, isn't it? If so, has he hacked off his hand and gouged out one eye? Apparently not. Once again, his attitude is, fuck you, Jesus. I'll do whatever I want, not what you say. As a radical militant atheist, I had no time for Jesus and all that sort of stuff. That I can go into this another time, why I had no time for Jesus. But I don't have contempt for him. You know, to me he was just a crazy guy. It's a guy who believed he could bring dead bodies back to life, even though they'd been rotting for days and days. And as the sister of Lazarus said, "But Lord, he stinketh." And Jesus thought, never mind, I can still bring him back to life. And he believed he could cure a bacterial disease like leprosy by driving out their unclean spirits. That's right. Off you go, unclean spirits. I'll tell you about a long story about that another time. So I have no time for a moron like that. But, you know, he was a crazy guy. I don't hate him because of that. And yet some of these devout Christians, they piss and shit and vomit on Jesus just to make themselves look and feel important. To me, that is the height of hypocrisy and bigotry. Now, one bloke, I think his name's O'Brien or something, he's a famous broadcaster here in Australia. He's chucked in his order of the whatever it is, Commonwealth, the prize he won or something. He chucked it in protest about this bat and ball woman being upgraded or something. I don't know the whole story. I'm not really interested in it. Now I sort of think, let them rave on. Let these morons, these hypocrites, these bigots, these scummy little people, let them rave on. Rave on. I'm starting to sound like Buddy Holly. Oh dear. But let them rave on and make complete fools of themselves, because anybody who knows just the teeniest weeniest little bit about the Bible recognizes that they're absolutely making a complete fool of themselves and bringing their religion down to the level it should be, down in the dirt. Personally, I've had enough of censorship. I used to publish a sex contact magazine back in the day, and I fought the Catholic Church for 14 years. For 14 years they tried to close me down. I sort of feel that we should all have a right to speak our minds. So as much as I admire this O'Brien bloke, whoever he is, for sticking up for his principles, standing up for his principles, whatever, I think it's wrong. I think these religious morons should be allowed to say whatever they like. But what I do object to is the corruption of children. Like, it's illegal to molest a child physically. How come it's perfectly legal to molest a child mentally and emotionally? That's what we need to look at. Let the adults speak a whole heap of shit. Let them get away with saying anything. But don't fill the child's mind with that shit. That's what I object to. Children should be allowed to grow up free of all sorts of molestation, including mental and emotional. One day, with a little bit of luck, governments will catch up. Oh no, I think that's unlikely, because the whole thing is set in concrete. You have to be a religious fuckhead before you can even be a politician. So I don't know. But I just think it's all wrong, filling a child's mind full of shit. But as for the bat and ball woman and the rugby fuckhead, go for it! I couldn't give a monkey's